A day like this gets me hungry for a burger with lots of meat. So I head on down to the Red Barn.
Red Barn's big new salad bar is paradise. It's a garden of Eden.
What have you heard of the Red Barn? Since it's no longer around, do you imagine a barn full of food items painted in red? Okay, let's take a trip back to the 1970s. There was an unforgettable fast food joint called Red Barn, and it wasn't just another place to grab a burger. Red Barn stood out with its big red barn-shaped buildings that made kids squeal with excitement and adults smile because of the anticipated treat. Inside the restaurant, you would find quirky mascots, hearty meals, and a cozy environment. Although it's long gone, Red Barn left behind more than full and happy stomachs. It became a small but special part of American culture that folks still talk about today. A trip into the Red Barn. When you pull into the barn parking lot, the first thing you will notice is the building itself. It looked exactly like a giant red barn, something you can find in the countryside. With its slanted white roof, big barn doors, and bright red siding, it didn't look like your average fast food spot that is common in the present day. It was a place that got you in a playful and welcoming mood before filling your tummy with tasty meals. Kids would bounce in their seats, pointing out the familiar shape from the car window. The bold signs, often with fun mascots or simple, glowing letters, let you know you were in for something good. Even from outside, you could smell the delicious mix of grilled burgers and crispy fried chicken wafting through the air to your nose and preparing your taste buds for what was to come. When you step inside, the atmosphere is warm and casual. There is something rustic and comforting about the space. A lot of things could be responsible for this, though. The wooden scents, clean booths, and a down-home charm that made it feel a little like Grandma's kitchen and a little like a neighborhood hangout. When you compare it to the more polished look of McDonald's or the growing popularity of Burger King, Red Barn has its own personality. It didn't try to look modern or slick. It just felt familiar and cozy. While other chains were going corporate, Red Barn stayed friendly and real, and that's part of what made walking into one feel so special and something people look forward to. The menu that made you drool. What was the real reason people left other restaurants and flocked to Red Barn? The simple answer is the food. If you were around in the 70s, just hearing the words Big Barney might make your mouth water. It was their version of the Big Mac, only that it had its flair. 2 juicy beef patties stacked with cheese, lettuce, pickles, and a special sauce, all layered between a sesame seed bun. It was big, messy, and totally worth every bite. Then there was the Barnbuster. This one had a bit of a fan club. People loved it for its simplicity. It was a delight of a thick, well-seasoned burger that hit the spot without all the extra fluff. It was hearty, it was flavorful, and for many, it was the go-to order. And let's not forget the fried chicken. Red Barn didn't just toss it on the menu to fill space. Their chicken was something special. Crispy on the outside, tender and juicy on the inside, with a seasoning blend that made your fingers smell delicious even after you were done eating. How about the sides? They were just as satisfying. You had creamy coleslaw, salty golden fries that were hot and crunchy, and soft dinner rolls that soaked up every last drop of flavor. And if you had room for dessert, the warm apple pie was sweet, flaky, and comforting. Now, if you wanted to compensate yourself for the hard work you had done, you could pair it with a thick, creamy milkshake in chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry, and you had a full-on food hug. And here's the best part. It didn't cost much. The portions were generous, the prices were friendly, and you could feed a family without emptying your wallet. Whether you were grabbing lunch with friends or treating the kids after school, Red Barn made sure no one left hungry or broke. The vibe inside. In the 70s, walking into a Red Barn felt a little like stepping into a cozy small-town diner, but with the energy of a fast food joint. The inside matched the outside's charm. Wooden booths lined the walls and gave the place a warm, homey feel. The floor usually had a simple checkerboard pattern, and the big menu boards hung right above the counter, easy to read, with bold letters and no fuss. The music playing in the background was usually something soft and familiar, maybe a hit by the Carpenters or a little bit of Fleetwood Mac. There was often a jukebox in the corner that let customers pick their favorite songs for a few coins. It added just the right touch of a laid-back 70s vibe. Red Barn welcomed everyone. It wasn't unusual to see families gathered at the tables, parents cutting burgers in half for their little ones. Teenagers came in groups after school, laughing, splitting fries, and sipping milkshakes. Road trippers would pull off the highway for a hot meal and a break from the drive. It had this easy, all-or-welcome atmosphere that made it feel like part of the community. The staff behind the counter always wore their simple and neat Red Barn uniforms, which were usually red and white. Another thing that stood out for Red Barn was its polite and cheerful staff. Not only that, but they often recognized the regulars by name. Some were high schoolers working their first job. Others were older folks who chatted with customers like old friends. It was fast food, yes, but with a personal touch that made you you feel good.
Hey, Hamburger Hungry, is that Red Barn's new giant hamburger?
Yup.
Gimmicks, mascots, and marketing. You see, Red Barn didn't just rely on good food to win hearts. It invested heavily in personality. A big part of that charm came from its quirky mascots, the Hungry Holstein, Hamburger Hungry, and Chicken Hungry. These characters were silly, wide-eyed animals who just loved Red Barn food. They popped up in commercials, on posters, and even on kids' meal packaging. Their goofy voices and animated antics made them unforgettable, especially to the younger crowd. What about the TV ads? They were pure 70s fun with their bright colors, catchy jingles, and those lovable mascots dancing or singing about burgers and chicken. Some commercials were cartoon style, while others used puppets or playful costumes. Either way, they were impossible to miss and hard not to love. Kids would beg to go to Red Barn just to see the characters again, or better yet, collect something with their faces on it. Red Barn knew how to keep families coming back. They ran kid-centered promotions with toys, colorful cups, and fun games printed on tray liners. In some regions, they even had unique advertising quirks, like local slogans or character-themed days. One popular tagline was, "When the Hungries hit the Red Barn." See that? Simple, fun, and easy to remember. All these playful touches did more than sell food. They created a feeling. Red Barn felt like a place made for families, laughter, and happy memories. The mascots weren't just marketing tools, they were part of the experience. For many, those characters and the joy they brought are just as memorable as the food itself. Red Barn versus the Giants. In the world of fast food during the 1970s, Red Barn was definitely the underdog. While McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger Chef were racing to open new locations all over the country, Red Barn moved a bit slower. It didn't grow as fast, but what it lacked in numbers, it made up for in heart. McDonald's had Ronald McDonald, those golden arches, and a massive ad budget. Wendy's was rising quickly with its square burgers and "where's the beef" attitude. Burger Chef had its own fan base, offering a full meal for a reasonable price. But Red Barn didn't try to be like them. It carved out its own space with barn-shaped buildings, wholesome meals, and a more laid-back, family-friendly style. Where the Giants felt more commercial, Red Barn felt cozy. It was a place where you could sit down with your family, laugh over milkshakes, and feel like you were part of something special. The food felt a little more filling, a little more like it was made with love. The fried chicken was crunchy and seasoned just right. The burgers were juicy, and the sides, especially the coleslaw and fries, were real crowd pleasers. Even though Red Barn didn't expand as aggressively as the others, it built a loyal following. People who grew up with a Red Barn in their town still talk about it with a smile. They remember the fun mascots, the warm booths, and the food that always hit the spot. For them, it wasn't about flashy marketing or fast expansion, but more about experience. In a way, Red Barn's slower, more thoughtful approach gave it a charm the bigger chains never quite had. It was different, and that's exactly why people loved it. Sometimes being the smaller guy just means you have more room to do things your own way. Why Red Barn declined. As beloved as Red Barn was, it couldn't hold on forever. No, the decline wasn't about bad food or unhappy customers. We could say it all came down to business decisions and changes in ownership. In the mid-70s, the chain was bought by the United Servomation Company and later by the huge multinational City Investing Company. These new owners weren't really interested in fast food. They were more focused on real estate and corporate deals. Instead of growing the brand, they started phasing it out. Some Red Barn locations were quietly closed or rebranded into other restaurants. Others were simply left behind with no clear plan for revival. It wasn't because people stopped loving the food. It was more about the higher-ups moving in a different direction. For many communities, the loss of their local Red Barn felt like losing a piece of their childhood. These were places where families gathered after church, where teens had their first dates, and where birthday dinners felt a little extra special. When the barn-shaped buildings disappeared, so did all the happy memories tied to them. Still, a few Red Barn locations managed to hang on. Some stayed open into the 1980s, and a handful even made it to the early 90s under different names or as independent restaurants. For longtime fans, stumbling across one of these places felt like stepping into a time machine. The smell, the taste, it all came rushing back. In the end, Red Barn didn't die because it wasn't loved. It faded away because of boardroom choices. Folks who ate at Red Barn in the 1970s would tell you it wasn't just about grabbing a quick meal. Red Barn gave them an experience that stuck with them. The barn-shaped buildings, the friendly staff, and the mouth-watering chicken and burgers all came together to create something more than a fast food stop. For many, it was the place they went after soccer practice, where they spent Sunday afternoons with family, or where they learned the magic of a crispy chicken drumstick and a thick chocolate milkshake. Even though it's been decades since most Red Barn locations closed, people still talk about it with a joy that only food nostalgia can bring. There's something special about remembering a place that made you happy as a kid or gave you comfort on a regular day. That's the kind of impact Red Barn had. Every restaurant served food, but ultimately it wasn't just about what was on the plate, but how it made people feel. Today, people still talk about Red Barn in online fan communities, Reddit threads, and tribute websites where former customers and employees share stories, photos, and memories. Some folks have even created homemade Red Barn recipes, trying to recreate the flavors they remember so fondly. Now, the fact that people still care, still remember, and still crave Red Barn magic speaks volumes. Have you dined at Red Barn before? Or did your parents tell you about it? What was the experience like? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe to this channel.